broken hearted.
SiriusXM-NFL Radio. So glad you could join us on a Wednesday morning. Still to come, Hall of Famer Aeneas Williams at the top of the hour. Former linebacker Scott Shanley will join us at 10 a.m. Eastern. But, David, now it's time to shift gears here a little bit. And every week we talk with different players and coaches around the National Football League about the things that they do off the field. And we hear so many great stories of work that's being done, none greater than the J Fund, in which Tom Coughlin was inspired to start in Jacksonville, and it's spread into the New York metropolitan area. And the executive director of the J Fund, Keli Coughlin, takes a couple minutes to join us here on the program, along with your former teammate, Chris Snee. Keli, Bob Papa, David Diehl, how are you this morning?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great having you on, Keli. It's always great talking to you.
And Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Dave, I miss that voice. I haven't heard it in a while.
I know. I was just going to say, I wish I could say I was so excited to talk to you, Chris. I'm just joking. It's great to have you guys on. And, it's bringing up the J Fund, you bring up so many great memories for me, different things with whether it was the gala or going to Jacksonville for the golf outing or, the different ice cream socials. And, the thing that always impacted me is not only how much did it affect the kids and the kids who were sick, but how much it did for the parents, and how much you guys help parents and get through it as a family. Because I know as a dad to a daughter, I would do anything to change the way my daughter was feeling and to try to make her feel better from the daily activities and the daily things they do to fight their illnesses. And just hit on that a little bit, Keli, because that was the biggest thing. It's not only about the kids, it's about families too.
Exactly. When you have a diagnosis, it's just unthinkable. And as you can imagine, it affects the whole family. I mean, parents drop everything to take care of their child when they're suffering from anything. But cancer is just really a traumatic thing to happen to a family. Siblings are affected. Certainly there's, guilt issues with siblings and them feeling like they're not the center of attention. Obviously, parents have to really focus on the child that's sick. So some of the things that the J Fund does by providing not only the financial support that we provide, but the emotional support, like you mentioned, is really, really important, equally as important as the financial piece, just to give the kids something fun to look forward to give the families some support to know that they're not in it alone.
And Keli, let's talk a little bit about the big event, because there's so many great events that you guys have, and as David touched upon, the golf, you have the wine tasting, and all the other events, but the big pronged fundraiser for the New York metropolitan area is coming up, which is the Champions for Children Gala, which will take place on October the 17th, which is a Friday night in New York City. Explain to the fans what it's about, and if they can't get there, how they can at least contribute.
Well, we're really excited. This will be our 10th annual Champions for Children Gala, like you mentioned, next Friday night at Cipriani, 42nd Street. And it's a terrific night. We have amazing support from the New York Giants and from other sports celebrities that will be joining us that evening. But it's a dinner and auction and just a special night to celebrate the work that the J Fund does, honor some great people, Al Kelly from the Super Bowl Host Committee, and Martin Eltrich, who's a longtime supporter and civic leader in New York as well. And we're just looking forward to it. It's our 10th anniversary, so we've been around the block for a while now in New York, New Jersey, and we're excited about the impact we're making, and we hope to do it for a long time.
Chris, I want to ask you because, as a player, there's a lot of things that you get into as a player to try to give back to the community. I know, obviously, you were always very active as far as the J Fund is concerned. Just talk about the impact as you were able to see it when the kids would come to the facility or the other areas in which you were involved, where you really were able to see and touch the effect that the event has on people.
Yeah, and you guys touched on it earlier, but that's always the best part of these events is when you get to speak to the parents, have the children come in. You see a video every event, and it's difficult not to get emotional during those. So, just the impact on these families and how much it means to them, but also the passion that the Coughlin family has in this foundation is why not only myself, but the majority of players on the team are so willing and excited to help out and participate in these events.
We're talking to Keli Coughlin and Chris Snee about the J Fund. If you want to find out any information, you can go to tcjayfund.org to find out more information. You know, one of the things I always thought was so interesting about the J Fund is how it started. You know, Keli, if you could give the listeners a little background of, you know, who Jay was and what he meant to your dad and to your family. You know, it's great how it ties football back into, you know, how it relates to everybody's everyday life.
Yeah, so my dad was the head coach at Boston College prior to going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and while he was at BC, he had a player who played for him named Jay McGillis, and Jay wasn't the strongest or fastest kid on the team, but he was, you know, worked really hard, set a good example, and did all the right things. Unfortunately, Jay was stricken with leukemia, and in just 8 months, he passed away. And during the time Jay was sick, both of my parents had an opportunity to spend time with Jay and his family and see not only the physical toll that leukemia played on his body, but all the financial and emotional struggles that really his whole family went through in dealing with the disease. And they knew that if there was ever a day that they could do something in Jay's name to, you know, help other families in a similar circumstances, that they wanted to do that. So they started the J Fund when they first came to Jacksonville, with the goal being to help with the financial side. And so we pay household expenses. You know, almost always a parent has to stop working to care for a child, so they have a loss of income. And on top of that, they have medical expenses. So no matter what socioeconomic level you are, no one's prepared for something like that. So we started with the financial side. We were able, like you mentioned, when my dad came to New York, New Jersey, we left the J Fund in Jacksonville, but also started a branch in New York, New Jersey. And so we're doing our work there as well. So it's been a great effort supported by a lot of people in the community, and we're really proud to be able to be a part of just making the life for these families that are tackling childhood cancer a little easier.
Keli, how unique is this model? Because I find it fascinating that you started it in Jacksonville when your dad was the head coach there, and you've been able to maintain it in two different areas. That is because normally when people move, they kind of move it with them, but you've been able to keep it centered in not only Jacksonville, but then branch out into New York. That has been an interesting challenge, but it really is a unique model, isn't it?
It is. You know, it's been an interesting challenge because, you know, it's apples and oranges. Jacksonville, Florida is much different than New York City, as you might imagine. However, you know, my dad really felt like he wanted to make an impact on the two cities where he's been an NFL head coach. And quite frankly, when he left Jacksonville, we sat down and talked and realized that it really wasn't about him and who he coached for or who he didn't coach for. It was the families that were living in Jacksonville and going through childhood cancer issues still needed help, and so we wanted to continue to be there for them. And then when he went to New York, New Jersey, we wanted to see what we could do to help families in the same situation there.
Talk with Keli Coughlin, the executive director of the J Fund, and Chris Snee. Chris, I want to get a football question in quickly for you. Obviously, you had to step aside. The body wasn't able anymore to continue, but just give me a little sketch on what you've seen so far out of this offensive line and the way they've come together as they've kind of rolled out the same five now over the last 5 weeks and 6 weeks if you count the last preseason game. But are you seeing the progress that the fans see on the outside that this group is making?
Yeah, no question. And I think it was something that we talked about all preseason, and then even after the first regular season game, is that, you know, it wasn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take a while. You know, I'm surprised how quickly they have come together. You know, considering you know, Dave can talk about this too, but the group that we had back in the late, you know, in 2007 to 2010, we didn't click right away in the 06 season. It takes a couple games, it takes half a season to really learn one another and to build that chemistry. So combine that with just the new offense, I'm actually impressed that it's come together so quickly into the season.
I said the same thing earlier. We had a phone call in a listener and asking the same type of questions, and you know, I had to give a lot of credit to our offensive line coach, Coach Flaherty. You know, when early on in the season, the tough loss in Detroit, you know, he's really done a great job of banding the group together and continuing to fight and move forward. And And you're right. People think that you could just plug in 5 guys on the offensive line and expect them to do their job and do it to a high level, and they don't understand how much really goes into it, the communication. Not to mention when you're implementing a brand new offense, when you're still walking up to the line of scrimmage, making sure you're confident in what you're doing, let alone the 4 guys next to you. It takes time to develop that.
Yeah, it does, and you talked about the new offense, but having a first-year coordinator who's also trying to figure out what the strength of each player that he has. So, what plays work for, different receivers, what routes they prefer to run. It's all a growing and learning process. So, I think everyone's excited to, how quickly it's come together, and, excited for this game this Sunday night.
Kelly, just in wrapping up here, this is kind of a really cool time for the J Fund, because when you take a look at, starting now through next spring, you've got some, marker events. The 10th annual Champions for Children's Gala, which is at Cipriani in New York City on Friday, October the 17th. You have the wine tasting, which is in the spring, which has become tremendously popular. And then the 20th anniversary of the golf event will take place next May at TPC Sawgrass. This is really a very important year, isn't it, for the J Fund? It
is. We're really excited. Our 10th anniversary next week at Cipriani actually falls on Jay McGillis's birthday, October 17th. So it's really kind of extra special this year. But we have great things coming up, and we're going to continue to be able to help more and more families thanks to the successes of these events. So I encourage people to get involved. We do still have some tables and individual tickets available for Champions for Children if people are interested in participating and coming out for a really great night with a tremendous auction and mixing and mingling with most of the New York Giants. So they can, if they are interested, they can visit our website, which is tcjayfund.org, or call 212-627-1000.
Kelly, we appreciate a couple minutes. Chris, thank you as well for joining us here on the program, and have a great
Bob
day.
And Dave, I hope we'll see you there as well.
Yes, I am looking forward to it.
Unfortunately, I cannot make it. I will be in Baltimore covering a football game, but as always, I love to get involved, Kelly.
Well, I heard you at the beginning of our call, you referenced the memories of the J Fund. Make sure you continue to participate. We love to have you.
Well, thank you very much, and I most certainly will, Kelly. Chris, have a